Incredibly, the self-proclaimed baddest man on the planet was struggling in the ring. His problems were just beginning. By the end of the fourth round, swelling had developed over Tyson's left eye, and his corner was shockingly unprepared to help him. They had neglected to bring a standard piece of equipment called an end swell, an ice-cold steel press used to reduce the swelling around the eyes of a battered fighter.
The disbelief didn't really set in until Mike's eye swelled and we began to watch what was going on in the corner. And suddenly it became clear they didn't have a cut man, they didn't have any equipment.
Well, the rule of thumb for swelling is put a cold compress on it. I made a cold compress in a rubber glove from down on the floor.
They were trying to put icy water into a latex glove to hold against his eye, which is like the little boy with his thumb in the dike.
I did what I had to do for that time for a mistake somebody made that was on the team. And being that I'm the leader of the team, I take responsibility. But it wasn't his eye being swollen. It was him making a mistake and getting hit with the punch.
Whatever went wrong is because of me. You know what I mean? And that's what I keep my, you know what I mean? Because when it goes right, I always say it's because of me it went right. And regardless if you have the best quarterman in the world, if you can't fight, it's useless.
If they hadn't had an end swell, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the fight. You know what I mean? But it would have made them look a little better.
This is high drama, and the crowd here is greeting it by and large with stony silence.
One of the things that was happening at ringside was you noticed the silence of the crowd. It was like they had gone to a movie and Godzilla was coming to eat up the town, and then, you know, Godzilla never showed up.
Finally, in round 8, Tyson found the opening he had been waiting for, when Douglas, emboldened in his role of Giant Slayer, dropped his guard for just an instant.
Buster started looking at his work. Yeah, you ain't so bad. So he posed in front of him. Mike hit him with that uppercut. And boom, down he goes.
And there's a right hand uppercut, and down goes Douglas.
They pounded his fist on the canvas, and I said, oh, okay, he's all right. Checked my watch to see where we were at in the round. Knew the round was almost over. I said, okay, we're cool.
Fortunately, I was just, you know, caught with a glancing blow to where it really didn't do an effect to me. It knocked me down. That was it.
When Mike hit him and knocked him down, it was like my kid getting knocked down. And at that instant, I wanted to reach through the TV and help him up. And he got up, and he got up like a man. He got up and he shook it off. And the rest is history.
Let's see what Mike can do to finish. And the bell ends to save Buster Douglas at the end of round 8.
He had put so much into that shot and to pull it off that it was gone. Mike normally would just swarm all over a guy when he had him hurt, and he just didn't have it in him.
And Mike has slowed down, maybe a tiny bit arm weary.
He hits the guy with his best Sunday punch, and the guy gets up. He's like, oh, if that don't take, you know, the desire out of you, nothing will.
Douglas coming back with a left right. Tyson is wobbling. Douglas wailing away.
Tyson, who had absorbed tremendous punishment, was unable to summon the energy to capitalize on the knockdown. Douglas came back strongly in the 9th round and sensed that Tyson was a spent force in the 10th. The fight of Douglas's dreams was now the fight of his life.
I started popping him with them jabs, seeing he wasn't moving as much as he was before. Then I pivoted, you know, where I got leverage and came up with it, you know, a real good uppercut. Bow.
Oh, the uppercut!
And I swear, if Mike Tyson's neck wasn't so big, it ripped his head off. When he hit him, I actually went like that. I swear to God, I did. I went like that. I thought maybe he knocked his head off. He hit him so hard with that uppercut. And then he just come with combinations and just drilled him. He fell right in our corner. I said, you're done. Stay down, Mike.
I said, oh, shit. That's what went to my mind.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
And I'm thinking crazy. I'm saying they won't allow me to fight if I don't have the mouthpiece in my mouth. So I'm grabbing for the mouthpiece. That was over. I tried to get up, and I was hazy. I didn't know where I was at.
It's over! It's over!
Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
At the end of the fight, he asked me what had happened, and I said, you got knocked out. He wasn't feeling too good. His eye was swollen shut. He wanted to break down and cry, but he held himself together. He took his butt whooping like a man.
And new heavyweight champion of the world, Buster Douglas. the history of heavyweight championship fights.
Buster beat him at his best. And that myth about him not being in shape, that's not true. Because if he wouldn't have been in shape, he'd have been out of there in about the second or third round because Buster was humming him. He just got his butt handed to him, and that's the excuse that he tried to use.
Why did it happen, James?
Because I wanted it.
Why? Why did you win this fight that nobody on the planet gave you?
His mother.
In what way?
God bless her heart.
People around him were saying, let's go, let's get out of here.
You want to go, James? No, let him talk.
But that was his moment, and he wanted to speak. And I remember myself very clearly saying, let's just follow him as he's dealing with these extraordinarily human emotions.
I'm just feeling real good and finally able to exhale with all the things that have been going on that I had to keep inside. The main thing I wanted to do was express my joy for my father and my mom, but my father. And Dad, this one is for you. I love you. He's my hero. To take the baton, so to speak, and then just to fulfill a dream, not only for myself, but for him, was just the most rewarding thing in the world.
But in boxing, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. While the world had witnessed a stunning upset victory, Don King would brazenly claim that the real winner was Tyson.
I said, I told you, Don, I told you we were going to kick his butt. And he says, get away from me, I'm protesting. I said, protesting what?
King claimed that when Tyson knocked Douglas down in the 8th round, the count went long and should have been ruled a knockout in favor of Tyson. Though tradition holds that the defeated champion keeps his belts, in the chaos following the fight, Russell snagged one of Tyson's belts, figuring that in the event of a protest, possession is 9/10 of the law.
They were all looking for the belt. I gave it to Buster when we got back. I said they could protest it, but they can't take the belt because we got the belt.
And then it starts with the, accusations. Well, they might not let you be the champion. You might have to relinquish the belt and fight again for the belt. It's like, well, you might have won the fight, but you're not going to enjoy being champion.
Word came that there was going to be a meeting back at the scene of the crime. You didn't know what was up, but you knew it wasn't going to be good for Buster Douglas. It was one of the most contentious press conferences I've ever seen. The door banged open and they walked to the side, and the image in my mind was, now you know what it feels like to be working at a 7-Eleven at 4 in the morning when they come in to rob you. And there's nothing that you can do. Here they come.
Don King, perhaps because he wasn't in America, was behaving with amazing impunity and bravado. I mean, he just assumed that he could overturn this decision, this knockout, with no problem at all. And for a while, it looked like he would.
Everybody has seen the facts, and the facts are irrefutable and incontrovertible.
First knockout totally obliterated the second knockout, claiming that Douglas had been knocked out. Well, Douglas hadn't been knocked out. The guy said 9, he got up. This is boxing baloney. This is not true.
King went to the videotape, questioning the accuracy of referee Octavio Mayron's count. But according to boxing rules, the ref in the ring is the ultimate authority. And even if the count as executed by Mayron was slow, it was final. More important, Douglas was on his feet at 9 and ready to fight. Silenced by the public's vocal support for the new champ, King abandoned his quest to take back the title.
When he came home, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. The pride that the city had, there was so much excitement, and it was amazing how many people admitted they were on the bandwagon. We knew you were going to do it, Buster.
And the news was just rocking with James Buster Douglas from Columbus, Ohio. He was like a king in this community because he represented someone getting to the top.
We went to the parade and we went downtown City Hall and they had this big stage set up, and as far as you could see there were people. It was like hanging around with Michael Jackson, the Beatles, Elvis Presley. I always told him, I said, you're like Elvis Presley. Hanging around with you is like being with Elvis. Everybody wanted a piece of it, because he was the guy that beat the baddest man on the planet.
I was embraced, That was cool, nice reception when I came back. But that was a lot of demands. I got to do the talk shows. That was all right, but I'd much rather have been just at home, just chilling.
Later that year, an overweight and underprepared Douglas was quickly knocked out by Evander Holyfield, losing his title, but gaining a $24 million payday in the process. Douglas retired to Florida, where he grew to the dangerously unhealthy weight of nearly 400 pounds and almost died in a diabetic coma. Forced to get fit again just to stay alive, Douglas staged a comeback, winning 8 of his 9 bouts before retiring for good in 1999.
I always wanted to do something in a good light to where it showed that I existed in this world. You know, it all came together for me.
As for Tyson, after losing to Douglas, things would only get worse. He fought just 4 more times before being sent to prison in March of 1992 for the rape of a beauty queen. And after being released 3 years later on parole, he returned to the ring a caricature of what he once was. Between ear-bitings and angry outbursts, Tyson continued to make headlines. But the aura of invincibility was gone.
Looking back now, the Tyson-Douglas fight is really the beginning of the end for Mike Tyson, because Douglas exposed him as a guy that can be beaten if you're not afraid of him.
Just keep chopping on him. Just keep chopping on him. And eventually he's going to go. And that's what happened. As you seen over there, he was flat on his ass.
Yeah!
The blueprint that existed for how to fight Mike Tyson was executed by Buster Douglas. Nobody knew that he was capable of it.
The ring was his refuge, and once he lost that image of being a monster destroyer, of being untouchable, then he had to face something closer to real life, and that's a very, very difficult prospect for him.
Mike Tyson will be okay. He'll be all right. Regardless of what people would like to see happen to me, like people say, oh, he just wanted like the rest of the fighters. Nada. I doubt that seriously. And that's why I guess people are upset, because they really wish that would happen.
He was like one of those guys just there to flare briefly. And now that that's dimmed, I think it's going to be a long journey out.
Douglas turned out to be just as badly programmed for success in 1990 as was Tyson. Evander Holyfield immediately knocked Douglas out, but another 6 years would pass before Tyson and Holyfield finally met. And by that time, Iron Mike had lived several more damaging lifetimes outside the ring. Through all the upheaval, Tyson remained the sport's most famous and infamous figure and its biggest box office draw. Thanks for watching The Tale of Tyson Douglas.